Okay, good afternoon. This is today's project, making this minimalistic, rustic console table. My wife said she wanted it nice and she wanted 35 inches high, and she wants it made from natural live edge wood. So I'm going to show you how I made this right now. I have some scrap, well, it's not really scrap, it's acacia branches, and some of it had been attacked by ants or ani or woodworm or whatever, and we hadn't treated it properly, and so I had to cut it off. This project is made from only 3 pieces of wood, and there's 1 piece going across at about 34 and 2 pieces going down, and that is simple. It's simple, but it has to be very strong because it's only relying on a joint, it's only relying on 1 joint here and 1 mortise here. Okay, so I cut this out. I will clean it up later. We've cut the curve in this wood like this, and we have the matching, not matching it. I've already planned out. These ones we drew a line down the center as well, and we squared it off. And then I'll show you here. Roll on here, and I'll just show you how I done it in the saw. I put it against a fence, and then a fake fence behind the fence, and then we cut them off first, and then we start doing our tenons. So here you can see that I'm putting it through the fence. You can see this little piece of white MDF. Make sure that's kept back from it, and we're going over and back. If you had a dado blade, this would be much quicker, but we don't have one, and I'm not going to buy one. So then we turn it over and we do the other side, and so back to live here now. I'm just going to clean this up with a chisel. At the shoulder here, I've made it a little bit thicker, the tenon, than the shoulder size, and then I will cut another shoulder here, so that there'll be more gluing shoulder. That will give it more strength. Whereas, anyway, I can't leave this out like this, but I'm going to come back in maybe a half an inch, half an inch, 12 or maybe 20 millimeters in, and maybe 20 millimeters in. I'm not sure if I'll divide the tenon in 2. Sometimes dividing the tenon in 2 makes it stronger. I may do that. What I did do though is I cut off all the bad bits off this. I'm going to round it up and rough it up, make it look like natural. I done the same on this one. I done it by my eye on the bandsaw. But ideally you wouldn't have you keep the pieces natural. But I am showing white on both sides, and so now I'm going to just I'm going to clean this up with the chisel, and then I'm going to cut the second shoulders, and then we're going to do the mortise. So I'm just going to tidy them all up, and then I'll get back to you. Just tidy them up with a chisel. I want a nice tight fit because this is going to be relying purely on this tenon. There's no stringers, there's no bracing. Having said that, there's going to be nobody sitting up on top of it or all that, but at the same time it should be strong enough that you can. I'm just going to tidy them up, then I'm going to square these in. Now that we have, I have my tenons done here now, I'm going to make finger tenons. I'm going to make a double tenon. I'm going to decide where the tenon is going. So I'm going to get the center of each of them. So I'll just draw a line which will be 90 millimeters there. The 2 of them don't have to be exactly the same, but we will make them the same. That's 160, that's 80 is the center. Show you better on this. So I'm going to measure 60. And the 60, I'm going to have 2 60 millimeter tenons. And then I'll have a shoulder on the other side that will take more glue. I'm going to transfer this onto this one, so you don't have to be that fussy. But it's nice to keep all the tenons the same size, even though the width of this is different than the width of that one. So this is our waist here. Okay, so that's the marking out. So we're 260 millimeters tenon. We'll do the same here. Okay, now I've marked them out. I have decided to put a haunch here. Can you see here? I'm not going to cut down the whole way. I'm going to leave it 12 millimeter. So this will be just cut out like this. I'm going to use ham. My favorite is my compact Ryoba, and I'll use the Dasuki for this way, but I'm going to use the Ryobi this way. I'll start it off with fine. This wood is very hard. Now I'll go over to the rough side then. Check that we're going on the line, yeah. You won't go quite down. You can change over to the fine if you like, but you'll end up making, your kerf will be different then. So I want to make sure I don't scrape the shoulder. And these ones I'm going down halfway. So start off with the fine. That's why we have the Ryoba has got two sides. Now we have a little trench made. Then we'll use the rough side. The word console table comes from it's architecture. It's something that hangs out from the side of a building. So maybe like a shelf, like a mantelpiece and that. The blade is 180 millimeters long, so it's called a Ryobi 180. Go gentle near the end, don't hit your shoulder. You can take a little bit out with the chisel later on. So now we have our 60 millimeter one here and our 60 millimeter one here and our 20 in between, and it's 12 up from the top. So now we'll turn it over and we will cut the shoulders. And I have a small Dasuki. Maybe I'll use the small Dasuki instead. Yeah, I'll use the small one. Why would I use a big one when it's only a delicate work? So I'll use the small Dasuki. Okay. And you just get it in here like this. It's very, very fine. You saw me using this before when I was making the children's bricks. Now. Perfect. Yep. And we turn it over on the other side. Take your time. Don't get excited. So I keep telling my boys and the students here, don't get excited. It will come true. And now we have that done. Then we put it back in here. And you're going to decide what way you're going to cut out this one. Now, the proper way to cut this out was with a coping saw, right? But you can cut down a little bit like this because the kerf is very small. I'm trying to get somewhere to get in with my coping saw. So, we can finish it off with the chisel afterwards. Now, we're in with it. That's perfect. Well, I won't say perfect. I don't like using that word. And then we'll go along this way. And we're going to go the whole way across here now. You should try, even though this has not been seen, you should try and make it near enough perfect. We can trim it with a chisel afterward. And then I'm going to do the same with the other one. Okay, now we have the tenons done for both ends. They're both, the wood is both different thicknesses. I'm not going to change them. So our tenons are different because we use the saw, the depth of the saw of the blade. So this one is 16.5 millimeter and the other one is 15. It's 1.5 millimeters. It's nothing to get excited about. But we want to put this somewhere in the middle of the wood. So I'm going to mark the tenon here like so, and I'm just going to mark where it is. It's going to come in. We're not going out to the very end with it. My wife said she don't want it. She wants a piece sticking out. That gives it more of a chunky look. You're determining which piece goes in which part. We want the end grain showing, she said, so on the end of this, and so we're going to step it in about its own thickness. So I'm going to, that's very hard to see, but anyway. I'm going to use this, the blade of this, and that's going to be our guide for our tenon. And then we will measure over, for our mortise. And then we will measure over then the mortise of this side, which is 16.5 millimeter. I think I don't normally use a pen, but it's difficult. We put some lacquer on this to protect it from humidity back there. So I'm going to use a pen, which I don't normally do. And I'm going to use this square, which we call squala here, to bring them lines over to here. So that we have our mortise then, and I can't see my other line. I'll put my glasses on, maybe I can see it. Oh, now I can see it. It's a bit dull out. There's a typhoon going over the north part of the Philippines today, and this morning it went out. And so now that we have, always turn your blade around. And then we'll measure 16.5 millimeters from there. It looks crazy the way it's going because of the curves on this, but we're going. This is where our line. This is our guide, and this is our everything. And we'll just make sure that this is 60, exactly 60, and this one is 60 and a little bit of a millimeter, a half a millimeter. That's fine. We won't be going right over to the edge anyway. So I'm going to go my 16.5 millimeters here. There's 15, 16, which is almost 17. And I need these joints tight because we're relying on this for the whole piece. It's not like in other things you'll have a brace on the bottom of it, and there's no brace on this. And of course there's a haunch on the middle of this, so that line goes through as well. So this part here is the full depth. You draw your X's. This is the full depth, and this one here is going the full depth as well. And this one is going, I'll put a 0 on that, right? That's going half depth, so that one is going to go down the same depth as this, less 12 millimeters, so it'll be back up 12 millimeters. And we'll do that on both sides, and then I'm going to go on the drill press. Well, actually, I'm going out. I have to meet somebody, but I will do another bit. I will drill these out later, and I will come back. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to set your depth gauge. You don't want to go through your lovely piece of wood, do you? Now, sometimes these depth gauges I'm going to go down to within. I'm not going to go down the whole way. I'm not going to take a chance. So I'm going to lock that there, and that shouldn't go down past there. But I will know, because I will know we are 10 millimeters from the bottom. So we just start up our drill press. And line up. The good thing about the drill press is you can go very close to one hole, very close to the other. clean out. Then next one, you can put them very close. Take your time, don't get excited. Now I will skip the middle part and then go back. Line up this way. Take your time. Now I'm going to cut out, you can set it for the haunch, but I'm going to guess by the top of the drill, multiply by 2 for the haunch part of it. I'm going to make 2 little holes. I'm going to take most of that out with the chisel, so I will let it go down below the top part of this bit. I know that it's a good bit more than that maybe. That should be enough. And then the last one. You should try to extend your lines there for when you're chiseling it out. Or you might know where your haunch is. And that's us finished. So that's the parts drilled out for the mortise. It's not a true mortise, so you have to be very careful with it. I'll do the other side then, and then we'll chisel it out, and that's nearly the job complete then. But we're going to round over corners, and we're going to do a little bit of distressing on it. So now I'm going to chisel out these. I've gotten the depth on this. At this stage, I wouldn't go further than the drill that we set to drill. If these are slightly long, we'll cut a tiny bit off them. So what we're going to do is we're going to clean this up now. You can do it by hand like this, with a sharp chisel. And as always, the mortise is the hardest part of a mortise and tenon, because you're taking out the wood. But by using the drill in the beginning, nice sharp chisel you want. You can use the mallet if you want to. You take your time with this. You don't want to be taking out too much. You just want to take out the right amount. So this will take, to do both of these will take probably about maybe 40 minutes. Okay, now that I've done out all the mortises here, done the mortise on both sides. It took more than 30 minutes. Now I'm going to dry fit it first, but before I dry fit it, I'm going to, because these are not true mortises, when we put the glue in here, there'll be hydraulic compression on the glue, or I think that might be the word, I'm not sure. So in order for the air to come out when we push this in, we'll make a little slit here on the side. I'll just make a little, just like in a dowel. You know in a dowel they have little grooves in a dowel. So it just lets the air come back out and the glue squeeze back out. And it's not going to affect the integrity of the joint, because it'll fill up with glue as well. So it's just a little bit. I just take a little tiny chamfer. I'll do it off this one as well. I'm going to dry fit this now. I pushed that one is loose enough, and put this one down here. Now, what I'm going to do then is I'm going to put it, get this in another bit. I will hop up on the table. That's what I'll do. Now that looks good. You should have the attitude that it don't really need glue at all, but of course we're going to glue it now. So I'm just going to glue this up with a couple of, I'm going to put 4 clamps, 2 on each side. The sides of the tenons, it won't, you need to put it on the sides, like in here and here. And then we'll I'm not going to push it the whole way, the clamp is going to move it. Oh, it did. You can see the glue squashing out there. Clamp it in a little bit. It's always good to have an extra pair of hands when you're doing this. So, Leo, straighten it out. And don't touch off there. This needs to go here now. And then I'll give this a slight tighten. I'm not going to tighten, you straighten it. Now, then we'll do the other one. Before we start tightening up, you get all your clamps on. A little bit here, a little bit here. You can see the glue coming out. You can see it here on this camera. The glue is squeezing out now. Lift this up to make sure we're going to get a rag and we're going to clean off the glue. And then we're finished the woodworking part of it. We have to wait for the glue to dry. So I just use damp cloth, wipe it down. Take the heavy stuff off first, then clean your rag and start all over again. That's our console table all clamped up now. I'll just give it another rub of the rag and let it dry I usually let it dry. It's warm here at the time, so it'll dry fairly quick, but I let it dry overnight because I don't want anything going wrong. And we won't, once you start gluing it, don't touch it, don't even move the clamps, just leave it in position. But they're good tight joints, and so that's going to help a lot. And then the part everybody loves to hate, or loves or hates, everybody actually hates sanding. So I'm going to sand it by hand for about, I'm going to take off the lacquer that's already on it. It might have been sand and seal, and that will be it then. So thank you very much for watching this, maybe a little bit longer than I would have liked. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to our channel here. And once again, thank you very much for watching.